Hello folks, myself Raj. I have around 10 plus years of IT experience and I'm working with Mule for the last 3.5 years. So I worked on various versions. So this is a brief introduction about myself. Now when it comes to Mule, not just Mule, for that matter, like any technology that's been successful is successful because that it was able to provide some solution to an existing problem or fulfill the needs of specific business entities or specific users. So Mulesoft is also one among them that was able to identify a problem and was able to provide a successful solution for that. So before actually getting into Mule, we'll just see what the problem was and what is the approach that Mule wants to take and which it was able to implement. Now the challenge that Mule has identified was simply given in this business X or Y axis, wherein we can see that the demands in IT are given the Y axis and the time frame on X axis, and we can notice that the demands in IT are going exponentially high. So as of the moment you see a lot of technologies coming in and most of the technologies are very much in their nascent stages, like as I mentioned here, big data, cloud, digital components, and we have the machine learning, AI and stuff like that, which is just beginning to expand its wings. So when a technology or a business is intact with some information technology or an IT, so in order to stay relevant and competent, the business has identified that it has to have a lot of integration things going in the background. So we'll try to understand what that integration means in a couple of minutes. But if you notice the graph, you see the yellow line on there, so which actually represents the IT delivery capacity. So what it means is, as on today we have a specific capacity, and the capacity, let us suppose I have 100 employees in my company as of today, and even in the future there could be a slight change, but it's almost going to be the same. But the requirement or the technology evolution is not going to be steady, it's going to increase exponentially. So the question is, how do we handle the rise in technology with the limited capacity that I have? So to fulfill this gap, we have the current approach, or the current the approach is no longer feasible, because as of now you see certain gap in terms of fulfilling the requirements by the current count or the current resources, and eventually the gap increases. So it will be very difficult going forward. And also the current operational model is such, like if you have a requirement, we'll try to dive in and get the requirements fulfilled. I mean, for a specific business requirement, we'll try to work on it. And let us suppose the project duration is 1 year. And after 1 year, we might deliver the product that the client wished to. But after 1 year, the idea that was shared by the business user could have been outdated by then. So we can't scrap everything out and start fresh. There is a lot of time involved, money involved and everything. So the business model is very much dynamic in nature. The ideas keep popping up daily, and accordingly we should be able to flexibly change directions. So the current IT model or the design that we do is not very flexible. So we are gonna see how we're gonna handle these things. So the way or the approach that we're going to follow is, we're going to kind of I don't know, most of the people might be working on some agile methodology if you are experienced, or waterfall methodologies or things like that. But when it comes to an agile methodology, which I'm going to elaborate later at later point, so what it does is, okay, they will be splitting the entire requirement into small chunks, where each chunk of the requirement will be able to handle a complete end-to-end implementation, though it's a very small functionality. So in such a in such a way we're going to deliver small functionality in bits and pieces, and we're going to move it to production. And any integration or any updations or add-ons to the existing code can be done using this Mulesoft approach, which we're going to look at. So that's the approach. Like when we do certain developments, we're going to release it to production, and on top of that, if we need any further changes, we're going to append that and redeploy, and that happens forever. We can change it. Now, so there is a change in integration approach. Now, to understand the integration better, I have a use case. Now let us look at one use case. So we have this e-commerce portal, which most of you must be aware of. So when you look at this the e-commerce website, so you can see a lot of images and interactable links and things like that, but we can understand that the browser is not holding any of these data. It is just an user interface. So where are we getting all this information from? So at the background there will be a lot of services that are supporting this website, so that when I click a particular link, or if I try to search something, it's going to interact with those services and fetch the data into the UI, which we the users going to interact with, and we're going to use this application to order products and things like that. So to understand the use case better, let us assume this e-commerce website is being supported by 3 applications, let us suppose. And the first one is, hope you guys are following me. Okay, fine. Now let us assume that these are the 3 applications that are supporting the e-commerce website. Now the first one is order processing system. So when we make an order, there is an order processing request that gets created, and you'll be able to track where your order is and whether it's been delivered or not, all these details. So something has to handle in the background. So let us assume this order processing system is handling all that requests. And now the second one is an SAP system, which is handling the inventory data and the customer data. So what is this inventory data? Let us assume I'm a shoe dealer and I have, let us suppose, 1000 shoes of a particular brand, a particular size. Now there is a big day sale happening in Amazon, and I would like to sell out these products. Now the moment 1000 orders of that particular shoe are being sold out, I have to communicate that the stock is no longer available. So there has to be some system to actually assess the orders and the stock that is available. So let us assume this SAP system has that inventory data, and also it has some customer data. Now the third system is some Salesforce system, which has some customer data. So let us assume these are the 3 systems supporting this e-commerce website at the background. Now if I have to have the entire customer data, which is split across SAP and Salesforce, now what do? We do an aggregation of these 2 systems. In other words, we do integrate these 2 systems and to get the consolidated list of customer data. So as we are talking about integration here, let's go back in how the integration has actually evolved, and again we'll get back to this scenario. So in earlier days there used to be integration in such a way that if one application has to interact or integrate with another application, there used to be some integration code mentioned, written in both the applications, so that it will be easy to interact. To keep it in a very simple and layman terms, let us assume like I know a specific language and you know some other language which is not common. So and we both have to communicate and perform a particular tasks. Now eventually, as we don't know each other's language, we'll somehow manage to come up with our own language, or make some signs, or come up with an alternative to just communicate in order to perform the task given to us. But whatever understanding that we had cannot be understood by the third person who just comes in. So in the same way, whatever code that was written between application 1 and 2 cannot be reused to integrate with the other application, but still the integrations between application 1 and application 2 can be achieved in order to perform certain tasks. So this kind of integration is called the point-to-point connectivity or point-to-point integration, where this integration code used to be in different languages based on the choice, could be Java, Python, or something else. But this is the kind of integration that was earlier, which is called point-to-point connectivity. Now let us assume with this kind of an approach we are going ahead with this e-commerce website. Now in the next stage we have this order status and order history. Of course, when you book your orders, you will be able to track the status and history in Amazon, so for which there is another series of integration which is actually integrating with order processing. So it is obvious that when you have to check your order status, you first have to log into your account. That's when the application will be able to know who is logging in and what is the order status of that particular person. So it has to integrate or interact both with customer data and order processing data. Now, so this is the end-to-end, like when you place a request in the browser, and the order status or order history can be seen using the Salesforce and SAP, where you have the customer data and the order processing system. So eventually this is how the data is being pulled from the actual systems and displayed in the front end. Now if we have to integrate all these applications using point-to-point connectivity, so here in this diagram I was just representing 3 applications integrating with other 3 applications in a point-to-point fashion. Now the problem with this is we might be able to deliver the product or the integration within the time and budget, but as I mentioned earlier, there is a very limited opportunity to reuse. And the second thing is, it is very tightly coupled and brittle. What it means is, whenever there is some change or some update in the code at any place, we might doubt the actual functionality of the entire application. We don't know where it breaks and how it breaks and what are the dependencies in changing a specific code. And the next thing is governance. So we people will be working on individual piece of integration codes, and we'll have to be very careful in handling or changing the code based on future requirements, because we develop a specific code and eventually after a few years there are certain changes that needs to be made. It's very difficult because the person who has written the code may not be there in the organization after that, and also the security aspect is also very important. And the next thing is meeting the business requirements. So yeah, as of the moment we might meet the business requirements, but reusing the existing code or developed code is we don't know, it's a question mark. We might not be able to reuse it effectively. Now in such a situation, let us suppose the e-commerce wants to come up with a mobile app. As of now we just have a website. Now this e-commerce site wants to come up with a mobile app. Now what happens? So the actual systems were the same. The SAP, Salesforce and the order processing systems are the same, but we'll have to come up with different the business is the same though, but we'll have to come up with a separate series of integrations. The reason for that is, when you notice the web browser user interface and the mobile interface, when you search for a particular product in the browser, you'll be seeing probably 10-15 products, but when you see in the mobile, you see hardly 3 to 4, maybe 5 products, because the screen is different, the interaction is different, the RAM, memory, everything is different. So based on that particular UI, you'll have to redesign these things. So whatever that was designed earlier cannot be reused as it is. So this is another problem. Now we'll just look at one more use case to understand this integration. Now, so you might have booked these flight tickets. So when here in India we have this Yatra, Make My Trip and things like that. So yeah, you might have booked these flight tickets. So when you select a from to, the origin destination at a specific date and hit on the search button, you'll be able to see some list of flights. So the application in which uh, the UI is hosted, in this case the Yatra, they don't own any flights. It just will be able to handle the request, or will be able to the service and display. So it is these individual flight services actually. So to keep it simple, this is how it works. When I place button first in this particular website, it interacts with all the actual flight providers and this you now to provide, very in their own, have their own applications designed in whatever fashion that they want to do, and what everyone will be doing in their own way. But when it comes to the actual hello.
Hello, Raj, can you hear me? Hello. Raj, can you hear me? Yeah.
Hello.
Raj, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, I think it got disconnected. I don't know when it got disconnected though. It got disconnected.
I think let me switch it to your presenter still. So, okay. No,
Can you see my screen?
not now. Maybe can't see your screen at the moment. Let me make you presenter again. Yeah, just 1 minute.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Can you share the screen again? Yeah. Yeah. Go on. I can see the screen now.
Okay. I'm not sure when you got disconnected. Hope you. Have you
Yeah,
seen
we are almost there. No, this slide we have not seen, but the other one we saw.
Okay. Okay. Fine. No issues. So what I was trying to explain here was the portal from where I'm trying to book my flights. They don't own any flights, but they interact with different partners or the flight providers to get the relevant information and publish into the user interface. Now, these partners they operate on their own, and every individual partner expose their services in different ways. One of the partners could have the flight details in a database, other people can have it in a file system. It's up to them. But when it comes to the business or the Yatra in this case, have to display the entire result in a uniformed way. So it is its duty to actually align everything in an order. Now, in such a scenario, let us assume if one of the partners wants to make certain changes to their application. So when it comes to the business side, the left hand side, so there will be it is obvious that the business has to make certain changes in order to be aligned with the changes that the partner had made. So it is again a kind of point-to-point connectivity where the business will obviously be affected with any changes that are made at the partner end. Now, to avoid these integration problems, there was another evolution that came up with, which is called as ESB model, which is Enterprise Service Bus. I'm stuck. Okay, so which is called as an Enterprise Service Bus or an ESB. So what it basically does is it's a middleware layer. So if you remember the example that I was giving earlier, where you and me talk different languages, but we have to perform the same activity. So on the same lines, what the ESB does is it is like a mediator. Let us assume we have another person, a middleman, wherein he understands both our languages. Then I communicate something to him, and it is he who translates it in the language that you can understand and gets the response back. And it is the translator who translates back to me in the language that I can understand. So in that scenario, I need not worry in which language you are comfortable with. So it is the translator's duty who does it. So on the same lines, the ESV is a middleware which actually takes care of all the transactions and translations, and uh, will be able to fulfill the requirements. Now, when it comes to the ESB, there are many competitors in this ESB space, like Dell Boomi, TIBCO, Microsoft Azure integration, of course Mule ESB. So when you have those many competitors, both, I mean, everyone will be looking out, like have a question like which one to pick, both for business users and people who are learning any technology have a question like which technology should I pick, when, I mean, which particular product that should I go with. Now let's look at few parameters. The first thing is lightweight. As we are talking about a middleware tool, it has to be absolutely lightweighted. When it comes to Mulesoft, it is a fully loaded application can be done with less than 100 or 150 MB of speed of memory. So it's a very lightweighted. And second thing is it's not just mediation. So earlier I was referring to an example where there will be a middleman like a translator and kind of things like that. Right? So that's just a tip of an iceberg. There is much more that Mulesoft can do. And third one is accessible. So learning Mulesoft is comparatively very easier. At the same time, the code that we develop can be easily accessed by anyone who onboards at later point. And next, scale up, scale down. So Mulesoft implementation can be done on a huge servers or even on a commodity hardwares or softwares. And next one is message agnostic. So there are a couple of applications wherein if we have to use those applications, we will have to stick to a specific kind of language in order to communicate. For example, we have some soap services. Even if you have never heard of it, that's okay. We'll get into detail. But there will be certain services which understands only XML language and it responds only in XML. So there are certain limitations. But when it comes to Mule, there is no such limitations. You can communicate in any way that you want it to, and it can respond the way you want to. So there is no language limitations or anything. And next, the last one is cloud ready. So Mule will support cloud. It can be deployed in cloud and it can consume any services from the cloud. So looking at all these parameters, and the only best option that you will end up with is Mulesoft. And by the way, when I mentioned about I mentioned like Mulesoft doesn't just do the translation part, can do much more. Just to add to that point, Mule ESB, actually it was named as Mule ESB earlier because it was one of those ESBs. But later, when Mule evolved much more than an ESB, it has changed its name from Mule ESB to Mulesoft. That's the reason the Mulesoft name was more popular, because it is no longer just an ESB. Now, using such an approach, it is obvious that we can deliver our product within time and budget, and we are going to create reusable services, and whatever code that we design as of now can be easily changed at a later point, and we'll be able to provide services with a proper governance and security. And next, obviously, we can meet business requirements. And on the right hand side, I have purposefully blurred it. It was an API-led connectivity approach, which we're going to later look at. It's a very important and interesting concept. And finally, Mulesoft can be integrated with all the applications in the market, any applications, and we don't need to create any connectors when interacting with other applications. Most of the connectors are pre-built and are available at free of cost. We can just use those connectors to interact with any of the applications. So yeah, Mulesoft provides all these connectors at free. There are very few connectors which have to be purchased. Now, the next question you might have is, are there any prerequisites to be learned before actually learning Mule? So to answer that, Mulesoft is actually built on top of Java, but you don't need to know Java. Why? Because if you start building a Java based code again in order to integrate things, so you will again end up back to point-to-point connectivity days, which Mulesoft itself doesn't want to. So Mulesoft wants to limit the coding aspect in designing the Mule, so you don't need to learn Java. So you might get a question, so is there no coding involved in Mulesoft? Not really. There is a little bit of coding, which is called DWL or Data Weave Language, which will be covered as part of the curriculum. And next, the course duration will be around 50 to 55 hours maybe, and we'll be covering in fact, about the versions, the much standard version in Mulesoft, the standard version is 3.9, because whoever wants to have a specific experience, whoever wants to put like 2 years experience into Mule and things like that, you'll have to know 3.9. However, we are going to cover 4.2 also, which is the latest version. And we are going to also look at the interview questions, resume preparation, and we are going to do 2 real-time projects. And the entire course will be practically driven. And so whatever we discuss here is not just for interview cracking and things like that, but that will surely help you when you actually have your start working on your projects. So that's our target. So with that, I'll leave the floor open. So if you have any questions, you can ask me.
Okay, so so Raj, can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. So so basically you talked about some differences between other integration products, for example, web methods, TIBCO, and other stuff. So what do you think that what is different in Mulesoft? I mean, as such, we talked about some features, but I mean the mediation and all those features are also there in other products. I mean, in your opinion, what is that which actually differentiates Mulesoft with other products?
Well, there are not just one, many. For example, the cloud-based, the service that Mulesoft provides, and also it's been acquired by Salesforce, which is of huge support. And most of the connectors, as I mentioned, are free of cost. Earlier, TIBCO was the leading integration tool, but the cost is very high. Mulesoft provides much more cost-effective and very cheap. And yeah, as I mentioned, there are a lot of, in fact, there is a huge community, Mule community, and where we're going to get a lot of support, not just from Mulesoft.
Yeah. So is there any, I mean, in terms of the product downloads and all, is there any community edition which is free to use, or
Yes.
is it all licensed?
No. For training purpose and everything, we are going to use all the free downloads, and we even can get a cloud account also for absolutely free of cost.
Okay. Okay. And so you also mentioned about the the platform as a lightweight. I mean, so what do you mean by that exactly? I mean, like it's a.
So when we build some integration code, let us assume I
Mhm.
have an integration code which is like 5 to 10 GB or some 5 GB of which is occupying a lot of space and which has to be run on a huge application. So after all, we are
Mhm.
dealing with something of a middleware, right? So the lighter, the better it would be.
Mhm.
So Mule code, as I mentioned, is a very lightweighted code.
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah. So,
So
so yeah.
is it compiled into Java or I mean what
So
happened? Mhm.
background, it is built on top of Java, Spring Boot, and stuff like that. But for us, it is very much interactive, and
Mhm.
we have a UI. We can easily design those things without even knowing what's going in the background.
Right. Okay. And so also you mentioned about I mean, the MuleSoft is cloud ready. And I think you mentioned this is one of the strength of the product. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So, but but if I understand cloud ready, I mean, of course, other products also you can basically deploy it on AWS or something. You just need a VMs and other stuff, right? So when you say cloud ready and you pointing it as a strength, I mean, what is different here?
Okay, AWS provides a cloud environment, but who does
Correct.
the configuration? It is we who have to do all the configuration. But when
Correct.
it comes to MuleSoft, the cloud environment and all the configurations needed are ready. You can just plug and play.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of
Okay.
features with which actually comes with the MuleSoft when you actually take a cloud account. So we are actually going to look at that free account also, and you will understand what are the features and how easy it is to develop on a cloud and how easily it is to use that. So we don't do all the configuration; it is pretty much there.
Right. So another question, I mean, you have not touched based on those aspects, but in this overview session, but I mean, if we talk about the MuleSoft platform environment, what are the different components which we get with this product? So, for example, any other tool which you take, they provide the BPM capabilities, B2B capabilities, EDI, and MFT and other stuff. So, is the MuleSoft product as such equipped with all these features, or
Yes, it has all the features. Uh, we can design the code in the cloud. We can deploy it into runtime manager. We can provide access and everything for the APIs that we build, and we can actually monitor the APIs and stuff like that. Everything is pretty much available in that particular environment.
so is there any BPM component which comes with MuleSoft, or we need to plug in the different products
No,
as such?
no extra plugins are required unless you need a specific features. Like there are few connectors which are to be purchased, as I mentioned, but and also probably if you need certain extra features, you need to have some subscription. Other than that, most of the things are uh, at a very base price.
Okay.
But for us, we work on a free trial account which is valid for 1 month. So after the 1 month validity, you can still create a new account and explore, continue to explore.
So, so the question was that, I mean, so I was specifically talking about the business process management capabilities. I mean, so I assume that capabilities are also there with this product, yeah?
Could you please elaborate on what exactly you're looking for?
So I was asking about the BPM, business process management capabilities, wherein you have a business process modeler where the business folks can draw the business processes and
Yes. Yes,
yeah,
we do
I mean
have
there will
something
be one.
called yes, we do have something called exchange wherein we do all those BPM aspects.
And is this going to be a part of your detailed training, or
Yeah, of
is this
course.
okay? And so this will also talk about your workflow components, wherein the human tasks and all
Yes,
those things.
definitely. Yes.
Okay. Okay, guys, any other questions? Please feel free to chime in.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, go
So,
on.
are there any certifications regarding to Mulesoft, or what are the cost of the certifications involved?
Okay. Yeah, there are a lot of certifications starting with Mulesoft for level 1 certification to architect, enterprise architect level. So the certification, the basic certifications cost around $270. Having said that, Mulesoft for the promotional aspect, if you go for any Mule event, you can get free vouchers. I think I don't know if they're still providing, but you can get a lot of free vouchers, which I'll probably direct you at a later point. Yeah, with that also you can take up the certification. But if you
So,
have to
are
pay,
there any minimum number of trials that you can give that exam?
with one voucher you should be able to take 2 attempts. If you fail the first time, you'll get an automatic voucher for the second time.
Okay.
Raj, my question about this, because I was listening that the MuleSoft was initially open source. I don't know what is the current state, and there used to be a MuleSoft Community Edition, which was free for developers to use and use that source code and implement something. Is this the same case now? For example, just like WSO2 or something which is open source at the moment, or the MuleSoft is
Yes,
completely
for developers it's free of cost, but as I mentioned, for community edition or to deploy it on the servers, you'll have to pay certain license amount specifically for the runtime environment only.
okay? So I mean, if you are using it in production, that's when it's going to be charged. Yeah.
Exactly. And if you want to simulate such environment in your local, you can still do that with a 30-day trial version.
Right. But can't I download the community edition and host it on AWS and run it there? I mean, and
Yes,
pay
you
the
can do
AWS.
that. As I mentioned, it's for 30 days.
Okay, so even that community edition is for 30 days. Okay.
And after 30 days, you can probably reinstall again and extend for another 30 days.
Okay. Okay, so any other questions, guys?
Yeah, hi Raj. This is Nagendra. Uh, I'm not sure about this news shop before, but I am from media background. So I just want to understand this Mulesoft is for the API to API, like most of the things I see, like it is from e-commerce to the partner, not from partner to partner interaction. They can use this software.
Whenever there is a concept of integration, when I say integration, it can be anything. Like if there is a website or an app, it has to integrate or interact with some application, and that application can be interacting with another application. So, it doesn't need to be a UI versus some application at the background, but the application can also be interacted with some other application at the background also. Okay. It's not just an API to API, but that is also part of it. And we are going to actually create, we're going to work on this API, I mean creation of APIs also. That's part of the curriculum.
Okay.
We're going to create, consume APIs, everything. Yeah.
So how do you connect the partners, like partner servers?
Sorry?
So how do you connect the partner servers? Like you said, the application, right? Suppose one application and partner wants some data from your application, right? So how do you connect the data? How do you
There are many ways to do that. For example, your partner has his data in the database, let us suppose. We can have a database connector. Or else, if your partner exposes his data as a service, so based on the service, we have a connector. So it is purely based on how your partner exposes his data.
So yeah, I think his question is more related to the EDI and B2B.
Yeah. Because I was partner to partner side, right? Yeah.
So
That's what
B2B,
Ashish asked about the business process management, right? That is where it will become.
no, I mean BPM is different. B2B will be different. So B2B provides the capability wherein you can configure the partner connections and partner profiles and
Yes.
everything. And then it also provides you a component wherein it can translate and detect and parse the EDI and XML, EDI, XML, Rosetta Net, and other B2B formats like Swift and HIPAA and whatever. So
Yeah, that's what I question, like whether to directly interact with partner to partner or from third party e-commerce to partner side. So
the question, Raj, is
Yeah.
I mean, do you I mean the Mulesoft platform as such, does it has advanced B2B capabilities, or is just relying on adapters and things like that?
applications.
No. Yeah. See, the thing is, eventually we can also create certain applications as part of this B2B. So we can expose certain services to other users at the same time. If someone is trying to send some information, it will be via certain services. Even any application that you see is kind of service that it actually interacts with, whether it is some SOAP service which interacts or exchanges XML data, or some REST services which exchanges JSON kind of data or anything. We are going to use that. At the same time, we are going to create our own services also, so that others can consume the service that we are going to build.
Okay.
Okay. So any other question, guys?
So I'm good.
Probably when we get into that, right, probably we'll be able to relate more on whatever I'm talking.
Yeah. So if there is no more question, then we can break. I can stop the recording.